was a select group, the firstborn. So it says that
Training for 3 years.
it says they had the ability to serve in the king's palace, whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. What's going on with that?
Well, they're indoctrinating, right?
That's right, and giving them, they want them to have their history and their language, and so they want to convert them.
That's right. That's right. And that, by the way, that's what we're doing here today, right? We're learning the language and the literature of a kingdom,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So what happens is, I'll kind of go through this process as we keep up with the text. What happens is that there's a call for people to come out. Now, the idea of passing the threshold to come out and the idea of passing the threshold to come in, that's Passover. What happens, that's called redemption. There's actually a price that needs to be paid. What happens when you pass the gate is that if you do not measure up to the standard of that kingdom, then somebody has to pay the price. That's why Passover is connected with the blood of the lamb at the doorpost, right? If the blood of the lamb, if the blood of the lamb isn't on the doorpost, then what happens in Egypt? Well, the firstborn dies. You can pay the price yourself, but of course, if you pay the price, you're done, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea here to cross a threshold is the Passover experience, and then that's redemptive. You're actually relying on the grace and the mercy of the king of the domain. In this case, the king of the one that's calling you out of that domain. So what happens, the ambassador comes with a call. He calls people out. They're called out, and once they come, then they're the called out ones.
I did not follow what you just said.
You didn't
said
follow what I
something-
just said?
Well, you said something about
Redemption and grace.
yeah, the redemption being
Right.
tied to the ones that they're being called out from. That didn't make sense to me.
Yes, because the ambassador represents this ambassador. Say I'm calling people out of here.
Right.
It's the ambassador from this kingdom that has come. He
Yeah.
conquers this king, and then he calls them out.
Right.
And to pass a threshold on either domain, you have to measure up. These are judges at the gates that measure, just like we talked about. Only certain people are called,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Everything is measured by the king, and to pass that domain means to pass the measurement, which means that I don't pass the measurement. So then, therefore, I have to pay the price or pay a price to be passed. I have to be redeemed to be able to pass through, to be able to pass over the threshold into the domain. Because the king, the standard of the king is life. If I don't measure up to that standard, then what happens to me?
Life's taken away.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
become killed.
Right, you're killed. So the idea is that the king has to extend grace to those people who don't measure up, and he's going to give them time to attain to that measurement before he determines whether they're in or out of his kingdom.
That's what they said.
Okay.
2 years.
That
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's why. So
Okay.
what happens is there's a call. He calls people out of his kingdom. Say, I'm coming out of this kingdom into this
Right.
kingdom. He calls them out. He sends the ambassador. They come out. He conquers the kingdom. They come out, and then they go. Once they're out here, they're actually called the called out ones, right?
Right.
They're going to start this growth journey to this other kingdom.
Right.
Actually, it's actually a training process, as you saw with Ashpenaz, right? They're put under the prince of the eunuchs, and he's going to guard over them. He's going to teach them and train them.
Right.
So that's what we saw here in verse 4. They're going to teach them the language and literature of the Chaldeans.
Right.
So what happens is actually when they come, and I have the space between the two kingdoms, but the idea, when you come out of the one kingdom, you're immediately passing over into the other kingdom.
So I'm still struggling with the redemption part. The redemption is when they pass the test, basically, when they learn what they have been
Well,
instructed
yeah.
to
See,
do.
at first, grace is going to be extended because they're not ready to pass the test.
Right.
So there's going to be a time frame given to them, a probation for
Right.
them to learn. At the end of that time, as we will see,
Right now, we're
then
on
they're going to
probation.
go before the king to see if they pass the test, right?
Right.
So, and that's why sometimes the illustrations don't work because the gap here. The idea is, as soon as I come out of this kingdom, I'm into another kingdom. There's no void in the middle. But
Right.
right. So the idea is that when they come out, they go into this kingdom. They actually go into a school. They actually go to school. and it's literally called the school, and they're actually given a teacher in the school. And that teacher is responsible for their learning. So they're going to learn, they're supposed to learn the language and the literature of the new kingdom. Right? And it says, and the king appointed for them a daily provision of the king's food, right? So this idea of daily is going to be critical. Because the idea is that they only survive, they have life because they're dependent upon the king. And that daily provision is a continual provision. Just like the Lord's Prayer, right? When he taught us, of course, it's a kingdom prayer, but give us this day our daily bread. So that's a prayer that we pray to God, because the daily provision, daily what happens in our lives is something that the king provides for us, which is God. So it's the same idea here, is that these people are students under this king's tutelage, in his domain. They're in school, but every aspect of their life is under the instruction and laws or domain of the new king. They're going to be conformed to his image. That's what Nebuchadnezzar is trying to do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it says, and the king appointed them daily provision, and then it says 3 years of training for them, so that at the end they might serve before the king. So he's given them a probationary time, a set time. Our number 3 is going to pop up again here, but he gives them 3 years. They have 3 years to learn in the school.
It's like the apostles.
Right? At the end of the 3 years, then what's going to happen?
No,
They're going to stand in judgment.
Okay, they're going to go before
The king.
they're going to go before the king, right? And what's the king going to do?
Judge them.
He's going to test them to see if they
Pass.
pass. So at the end of the time, there's this judgment process. Now, there's something else that's very interesting here. It says, verse 6, it says, now from among the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. To them the chief of the eunuchs gave them new names. Very specific. Daniel, he gave the name Belteshazzar. To Hananiah, Shadrach. To Mishael, Meshach. And to Azariah, Abednego. So what's going on there?
New identity in the new kingdom.
What's that?
New identity in the new kingdom.
Okay.
New identity.
Yeah, actually, a name symbolizes character, right?
Essence, you said.
They were supposed to, essence or character. They were supposed to develop a new character defined by or conform to what?
To the kings.
The new king.
To the new king, and actually to the new gods. If you look at the names, their names, Daniel means God is judge, El is judge, but his name is changed to Belteshazzar. And Bel is the Babylonian god. So their names were changed from being reflections of the god that they served in their old kingdom to the reflection of the gods that they are supposed to be serving in the new kingdom, which is also a reflection of the king. Nebuchadnezzar, Nebu is the name of the Babylonian god. So these guys are named after the Babylonian gods. When they come into the kingdom, they're supposed to receive a new name. This training process is supposed to form in them a new character. A character in harmony with the king or the gods of that domain.
Well, something didn't quite work here, did it? Because he changed their name, but he wasn't able to change their essence because they still remain true to their true God.
Yes, right. But I'm not looking at that. What I'm looking at is the process.
Okay, the process.
Right, because the process is actually describing the process of what God is doing for us is being mirrored in the process of what Nebuchadnezzar is trying to do to these people, right? Now, of course, God, there's the part of the story is that these people serve God, and that's going to change the dynamic because we know who the true God is. But the idea is this idea that is very critical is that when you come out of one kingdom and then you enter this other kingdom, you're supposed to receive a new name, right? This is common in the Bible, right? Abram becomes
Abraham,
Sarai becomes,
Sarah,
right, and Jacob becomes,
Israel.
and Saul becomes,
Paul.
right, so this idea of a new name, it used to be common. When, for example, when missionaries came to America and they would go around among the Native Americans to do missionary work, the Native Americans would ask what their Christian name was, and then if they were baptized and became Christians, then they received a Christian name, a new name. It's the same idea of getting married, that the wife receives a new name. It's supposed to, it follows this biblical pattern of reflecting the character of her husband,
Yeah.
right?
We received the new name when we were confirmed.
That's right. You're supposed to receive so the new name is actually a symbol of a transformed character. So it's important here in Daniel that not only are they just learning the language and literature, and they're under the daily, and there's a probationary time, but they're supposed to receive a new name. So I hope you're seeing the gospel analogy here, right?
Yeah.
Who said that about you get a new name when you confirm?
I did.
Huh?
I did. I did.
Oh,
As Catholics, we do.
I never
Yeah.
ever heard of that. I just
Yeah.
was curious.
Yeah. Yeah, people used to receive a Christian name.
Mm-hmm.
So usually sometimes it would be a new middle name or whatever, right? Okay, so it said, of course, then it goes into the story about Daniel and his friends. They're not going to eat the food. There's something I want to say about the food test, though. This is very important. This is something really important in terms of kingdom dynamics, is this. Little things matter, right? So here we have a story about Daniel and his friends, and they purpose in their heart they're not going to defile themselves. Their bodies are the temple of God. Now the temple in Jerusalem has been destroyed, and the articles of the temple are being brought to Babylon. But really, the true articles of the temple of God in Jerusalem are not pieces of furniture; they are
The people.
people. And